After the close congressional special election in Georgia, with the Democratic candidate pulling in 48% of the vote,
we will be ready to fight on and win in June.
Political eyes are now fixed on South Carolina. That's where 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, and 3 independent candidates are all vying to replace former Republican Congressman Mick Mulvaney in another special election. President Trump appointed Mulvaney as his budget director, leaving that seat in the 5th District up for grabs. That evangelical voting bloc that catapulted Donald Trump into the White House in 2016 is here on the ground in South Carolina, hoping to do the same thing for another GOP candidate. Chad Connolly is one of those candidates. He's knocking on doors, reaching out to voters, and promising to bring his faith to the forefront of his campaign.
You know, I think that we as Christians need to start looking at things not as the polls say, not as the experts say. What's the Lord say? What's the Word say? We got to be able to look through a biblical lens when we make decisions, and I really try to live my life that way.
He already has the backing of House Freedom Caucus leader Mark Meadows.
I know Mick Mulvaney very well, the previous congressman, and what Chad has not only demonstrated over time, but certainly has reinforced, is that he won't forget South Carolina when he goes to Washington, D.C.
But despite the support of heavy hitters like Meadows, Connolly knows the power that the evangelical voter has.
Father, I just want to thank you for these men and women, their dedication to truth.
It's a lesson he learned as the former director of faith and outreach for the Republican National Committee.
I saw the numbers from Barna's polling that some 80 million people are sitting in churches, but only 30 couple million vote. So really it's our fault, Amber, what's been going on. There's 40 to 50 million people who identify with the Lord and the Bible and their church and a biblical worldview who don't bother to go vote.
One political group is hoping to change those numbers. The Rampart PAC is a unique kind of political action committee with the sole mission of putting people of faith, including pastors, in office. Taking a line from Francis Scott Key's poem that eventually became our national anthem, the group believes that just as those patriots wondered if the American flag could be seen over ramparts during battle long ago, freedom will again prevail today as it did back then. They put that belief into action by backing Connolly and others like him, so that Judeo-Christian values can take center stage in Washington. Pastor Mark Harris believes that groups like Rampart PAC are essential when it comes to undoing things like the Johnson Amendment, which forbids churches and other nonprofit groups from supporting or endorsing political candidates.
We feel like that getting the best candidates into office will take place once you begin to have believers stepping up and churches awakening and pastors really engaging in this process as well.
Harris, who has run for office himself, has a message for fellow Christians who say believers should not be involved in politics.
If you look at the biblical principle, whether it be Moses or whether it be in the New Testament, you look at Jesus, they were engaged in every aspect of life. As a Christian, as a believer and follower of Christ, I can't just pick and choose what areas of life I'm going to choose to live out my faith.
The Rampart PAC is putting its faith and financial backing behind that belief. Time will tell if it pays off. Other candidates on the GOP side have also raised big bucks, with Republican candidate Ralph Norman bringing in more than $500,000 so far. And Democratic challenger Archie Parnell has reportedly raised $250,000. He's hoping to flip the traditionally red district to blue. The South Carolina special primary election is May 2nd. Amber C. Strong for CBN News in Indian Land, South Carolina.